All right, good morning and welcome to the Experience Series, Give Back to Rise Above. My name is Jill Coleman. I'm the Chief Administrative Officer for FST Logistics and One Compass Holdings. And I'm excited about the opportunity to moderate today's conversation about the link between social responsibility and talent recruitment. But before we get started today, I'd like to thank our sponsors, GBQ, WGU Ohio, Medical Mutual, Sedgwick, and Acclache. Your support is invaluable in fostering these important conversations. Now it is my pleasure to welcome Caitlin Priest, State Government and Community Relations Director for the Central Region with WGU Ohio.
Almost wore that sweater. Wow, good to know. I will have to, going forward, check outfits with the PowerPoint. I am delighted to be here on behalf of WGU. We are thrilled to sponsor this morning's event and to support the innovative and important work that you all are doing with your businesses and with the community. For those who don't know, WGU is a fully online, not-for-profit, competency-based university. We were founded about 27 years ago and have about 200,000 students across the country enrolled in our schools of business, technology, health professions, and education, where they can earn bachelor's, master's, and certificates. So we are thrilled to educate and upskill the workforce right here in Ohio that is supporting the wonderful work that you all are doing. And just delighted to be all part of the great work that you all are doing here this morning. And happy to be here. And now I'd like to introduce Sarah Robertson, partner at GBQ.
Thanks, Caitlin. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to welcome you here to GBQ this morning. For those of you who are first-time attendees, GBQ is a top 100 tax, accounting, and consulting firm. You are sitting in our headquarters here in Central Ohio, where we've been for more than 70 years. We also have offices in Cincinnati, in Toledo, and Indianapolis. So while it is busy season here for our team, we will always make time for conversations like this one today, because building a strong workforce starts with building a strong community. So welcome to GBQ. Today we have an insightful panel discussion that explores the link between social responsibility and talent recruitment. Your company brand has sway in the community. Job seekers are watching. Studies show applicants are seeking roles with organizations who actively give back and support social services and nonprofit work. Our panel will discuss how your organization can stand out as an employer of choice through your engagement in the community. I'd now like to pass it back to Jill Coleman to begin our program.
Thank you, Sarah. Well, now to the main event, I'd like to introduce the panelists. Mark Bruce, Corporate Affairs Manager at Kroger. Matthew Goldstein, Founder and CEO of BESA. And Vanessa Yanner, Senior Manager, Sustainability and Community Relations at Bread Financial. All right, welcome.
Good morning.
All right, to get us started, would each of you please introduce yourselves and briefly tell us about your organization? Vanessa, we'll start with you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Vanessa Yanner with Bread Financial. I oversee our community relations and how we invest in our community, give back to nonprofits. Bread Financial, if you're not familiar, the name Alliance Data may ring a bell. We went through a name change a few years ago, but we're a financial services company, consider ourselves a tech forward, and we offer a variety of savings and borrowing and credit solutions. So happy to be here. If you are familiar with us, we have quite an associate presence here in Central Ohio. We've got 6,000 associates across the world, with the majority of them here in Central Ohio.
Good morning. Emma, can you hear me okay? Okay, great. Matthew Goldstein, founder and CEO of BESA. We are a Columbus-based nonprofit. Everything we do is around community service, bringing people together primarily through volunteerism. We launched in 2012. We had 56 volunteers get back a couple hundred hours of service. It's grown to 100,000 volunteers, 13,000 service projects. Last year, we worked with 185 nonprofits here in Central Ohio to help them get the resources they need to advance their mission, to help people learn about needs in the community and then advance those needs through volunteerism. We work with a lot of companies to engage their workforces in volunteerism. As an example, Wexner Medical Center has 17,000 employees. We help get their employees out the walls of the hospital and into the community to serve the community and give them another perspective of their role in it. And so thank you for having me. Excited for the conversation.
Good morning, I'm Mark Bruce, Corporate Affairs Manager for Kroger's Columbus Division. Not Big K down in Cincinnati. I'm with the Columbus Division, which is 114 stores in Toledo, Columbus, down to Portsmouth, and then over to the Ohio River Valley and Steubenville in West Virginia. As Corporate Affairs Manager, I'm in charge of our media relations, government relations, and our charitable giving, manage our partnerships with all of our various organizations, probably more than 100 really when it's all said and done across those areas. Kroger, the Columbus Division has 18,000 associates. Majority of those are part-time, but a lot of full-time associates too. It's about 60-40 part-time to full-time associates at those 114 stores. 115 stores by December when we open our newest store by Olentangy Liberty High School, and then hopefully 2 more stores next year as well. So a growing division, a growing area, obviously, is Central Ohio in this area, and Kroger's proud to grow with it. As a company, Kroger's been around since 1883, headquartered in Cincinnati, and we have 420,000 associates across the country. So a large place that I hope all of you visit at least once a week. 2-3 times is fine. So please find any store. We'll be glad to see you. Glad to be here today.
Well, I think my husband single-handedly keeps you in business.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
So what does giving back mean to your organization, and what do you aim to accomplish in the community? And feel free to share any recent projects that you think might best work. And maybe Mark, we'll start with you.
Sure, absolutely. So in 2017, Kroger took our community-focused giving as an entire company and said, we're going to laser focus in on one issue. Previously, divisions across the country were free to support what they wanted to in their communities. So here in Columbus, we were a big supporter of the Race for the Cure, of Pelotonia, of Stephanie Spielman Cancer Institute at Ohio State, and lots of different organizations. We've always supported hunger. We were a founding partner of Mid-Ohio. The very first delivery of milk was from Kroger's president at the time when Mid-Ohio opened stores more than 40 years ago. So hunger's always been a part of what we are. But in 2017, the company said, if we can focus all of our efforts into what we call our Zero Hunger, Zero Waste mission, maybe we can actually make a difference in trying to end hunger and waste in the communities in which we serve. And so that's what we do. We focus our giving as much as possible and our partnership and our associate engagement, everything that we can do, we try to focus on that mission to help end hunger. We haven't done it. Our goal was to do it by 2025. We got to set goals. We didn't. And so now we're focusing on, well, what can we do, right? How do we shift this? Now the need's greater more than ever. If you have any relationships with any food pantry anywhere, they will say, they are all seeing more people now than they did at the height of the pandemic, which is remarkable and hard to believe, but that's the reality that we live in. So that's where we focus on. And that's a couple ways, obviously through our monetary giving as a company, as our charitable giving from our customers through rounding up at the register. Please round up every time you're in the store, hit the yellow button. That money directly goes to all of our charitable partners as well. And then also through direct retail pickup. So we donate food from all of our stores. Last year, the 114 stores in the Columbus Division donated 2.8 million pounds of food. So that's meat, that's dairy, that's produce, bakery, all those items, canned goods as well. Those things that good quality, not quite to the standard which we want to sell it at, but it can still be consumed by somebody. And so we work with food pantry partners at all of our stores. They come, they pick that up multiple times a week, and it gets to someone's belly within a couple days. It's a remarkably wonderful program that our associates especially take ownership of. Some of them used to get assistance through that before they started working for our stores. And now they can be the person that donates some of that food and helps someone. It's a really powerful program that we get great engagement from. Grab it, it's easier.
What is giving back means to our organization? It is everything we do, right? Research in General of the United States released a report on the epidemic of loneliness. This was released 2 years ago. What he talked about in this report is that we've had epidemics in this country for so many years, right, since the founding of the country. Most recently, HIV/AIDS was an epidemic. Smoking was an epidemic. When we put our resources to the epidemic, we can solve it. And his comment was, right now, it's loneliness, that we as a society are more lonely and isolated than ever before. We hear that about seniors, but his research shows it's people from all demographics. And it creates real world health consequences. For an individual, it could be like smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. And then when we look around at the world and what's happening in the world, how we're shouting at each other, he attributes that to loneliness. Because when we are more lonely and isolated, empathy goes down, kindness goes down, miscommunication goes up. His prescription is community engagement. It is volunteerism. That when we serve people who look like us and look nothing like us, it builds kindness, it builds empathy, it builds community. So for us, this work is essential. It's part of the fabric of our community. It's essential for more people to get involved. Volunteerism is at historic lows. It's the lowest level since the government started surveying volunteer rates decades ago. And it's so essential to the health and well-being of the community. And so it's critical not just for us as individuals to get involved, but for companies to also get involved. Because when we work with a company, be it OSU Wexner Medical Center or Jenny's Ice Cream, a whole bunch of them, their workforce are thousands of people, even hundreds of people, right? And we're able to mobilize those people where needs are the greatest. And then they are able to bring that experience back to their company, mobilize more people, and create a culture around giving back. And it's essential to a thriving community. So I would say it's critical to the work that we do. It's something we think about each and every day.
Well, for Bread Financial, giving back is really ingrained in every facet of our business. It's part of our company culture. It's who we are as a business. And when we think about our community investment strategy, it aligns with our broader business goals. Because at the end of the day, what's good for society is good for our business, and we know that. And so it keeps us focused to give back and bring that to our associates every day we come to work. And that's my job, my team's job, is to think about how are we actioning. One of our values is pay it forward. How are we creating opportunities every day for our associates to pay it forward in their communities? We really do that by looking at our entire stakeholder universe. We've got not just associates, but customers and clients and board members. And how are we bringing them along to give back to the community and be part of that strategy? It helps drive the nonprofit we're engaging with. It drives their mission when we can mobilize that stakeholder audience to learn more about that organization, get engaged with them, become a volunteer, become a donor, and really give back in a unique way. One interesting way that a recent story you asked for that's super fresh for us is we work with a lot of retail brands to provide their credit solutions. And if you're familiar with the Maurice's store, if you've been at a mall, you see Maurice's, they're a client of ours. They were in Columbus for a meeting with our staff. Our staff always opens meetings with who is Bread Financial, how can we educate our clients about who we are, and they talked about our commitment to paying it forward, and they gave an example of a nonprofit partner. If you're familiar with Ruling Our Experiences, they're a Columbus-based national organization, ROCKS, if you know that name. And after the conversation, their chief operations officer came up to our team and said, "Hey, we want to get to know them. We want a relationship with ROCKS. We have an opportunity for them." They had clothing in a warehouse that was otherwise going to be in a dumpster, and it was girls' clothing, and they wanted to donate it to ROCKS. Well, the ROCKS, if you're familiar, I think they have 10 staff, maybe their office is as big as this room, hopefully a little smaller. And they were like, that's awesome. We don't know how we could ever accept that donation. So Bread Financial said, hey, we're going to help. We're going to accept that donation on your behalf, and we'll partner with you on the logistics. So our associates have been working. It was 75,000 pieces of clothing. That's 90 pallets of boxes stacked 6 foot high. A lot more than I realized. But our associates have been working since the beginning of February, opening those boxes, sorting them, repacking them, and then next week we're partnering with Ross and their facilitators and Girls Serving Columbus nonprofits to do a distribution of that clothing. So all those nonprofits, those school counselors are going to drive up to our building and leave, go back to their organizations, their schools, with boxes and boxes of brand new clothing that otherwise would have been in a dumpster. So it's not just about how we're partnering and investing in the community monetarily, but we're always asking ourselves, what else can we do?
That's amazing. Thank you. Those are great answers and great examples. Can anyone expand more on how your community goals overlap with your business strategy? And Matthew, maybe we'll start with you.
Yeah, so our community goals are quite simple: to expand community service. Our business strategy, so BESA is a nonprofit. Half of our revenue is philanthropic, meaning donations, government grants, foundations. The other half is earned revenue. So that's businesses paying us for a service. What is that service? It's to manage their volunteer program. And that, of course, then also goes right to our mission of expanding community service. If we can deliver a robust, transformative volunteer program for a company that helps them deliver on their goals, their values, their vision for how they show up in the community, they're able to go further faster. A quick example, the Abercrombie & Fitch does an annual program called the A&F Challenge. It's 5,000 attendees. They have national musical acts that I don't know the names because I'm too old to know, the Chainsmokers and others, free food and drink. It takes 400 volunteers to put that on. And Abercrombie used to have their associates be the volunteers. And they didn't love that because they wanted their associates to enjoy the event. There are 3 people who run the A&F Challenge, this big event that brings national acts. And so they hired us to manage the volunteer experience. And this will be the 7th year that we do it. It allows their team not to worry about anything with volunteers and all the things that are happening behind the curtain. It allows their team to focus on what they need to focus on, which is selling out the event and raising money that then is funneled into the nonprofits that they support, billions of dollars every year. And so that's a relationship that allows us to show up and do our highest and best work, and allows Abercrombie to show up and do their highest and best work. And that's where the intersection of what matters to us, community engagement, intersects with the business aspect of what BESA does each and every day.
What about you?
Well, I did mention this is completely ingrained in our business schools. We know that when we're advancing that pay it forward value, we're seeing those returns in just increased engagement with our in confidence, frankly, with our stakeholders. We see that our associates, the retention and engagement scores, when they're actively involved in our communities go up, and we're really able to connect with our customers in a unique way. I'm gonna read a stat here. We did a survey last year of consumer behaviors, and it showed that 87% of consumers said they would buy a product because the company they're supporting cares about a cause that's relevant to them. So today's consumers are looking at this. So as companies who are consumer facing, it's our responsibility. It's what we have. It's not just the right thing to do. It's the expectation of our customers for us to do that. And frankly, for our business, it's the expectation of our associates. And it should be for the communities too. Because when we're investing in the root causes of these community issues and creating communities that thrive, those are our future employees. Those are our future clients and customers. So it makes perfect business sense that this is fundamental.
I hope I wasn't at Kroger in 2017 when they decided to, focus on the zero hunger, zero waste mission. I hope the meeting wasn't very long because we feed people, right? We're a grocery store. We feed people. So the community focus should be to feed more people. And it perfectly aligns with what we do. Jim Rhodes, longtime governor in Ohio, used to say every good Ohioan wants a good job and be left alone. I kind of add on to that a little bit and I say, I think all every person wants to do is to be able to buy whatever they want in our stores. At the end of the day, I think any person that is around wants to be able to go to the grocery store and buy what they want, not what they can afford, not what their salary, their paycheck, their assistance, whatever their means are that limits them. They want to be able to do what they can and what they want to do. And so if we can help people get to that, it absolutely makes sense for our business because they ultimately will become a customer with us, and they might have got assistance at some point. That even brings them in closer and really connects them to who we are. One thing as I have spent some time at Kroger, customers, people say my Kroger. It's my store. We're almost viewed like a utility. We are a thing that people need because we are right there. We know people need food, absolutely. Which is unique because we are a for-profit company with shareholders. So it's a really interesting place to be in the relationship that we have with our customers. So when our customers see that, yes, we're here to feed you, we're also here to feed those folks who need some help to do that, it just makes sense. It's really clear and makes sense. And at the end of the day, makes it easier for myself and our associates especially.
That's great. What steps have you taken to inform and involve employees in companies' efforts to support local organizations? Vanessa, we'll start with you.
Well, that's my team's job. We're a small team, but super mighty because it's our job to help activate that pay it forward value. And our associates are a key stakeholder in making that happen. I think I mentioned earlier, when we engage with a nonprofit organization, we're providing that financial support, but we're looking to create an engagement plan with them that is holistic in evaluating what can we do beyond just giving you money. What else do you need? And our associates are critical to making that happen. So much so that we check in with our associates every year. We do, most companies probably do, an annual associate survey, but we have a whole section dedicated to, are we doing the right thing to keep you engaged in your community? Are the benefits like matching gifts programs and dollars for doers programs that we're offering meeting your expectations and supporting what you need us to support? And it's a 92% satisfaction rate with our associates that we're doing right by the community. And they get to experience that if they choose. We don't force it on anybody, but I can tell you they love doing it. In various ways. So we have lunch and learns and webinars, and we offer tours of the nonprofit organizations. We do board placement, and we offer paid volunteer time. I think that's significant too. Last year, our associates volunteered more than 10,000 hours in our community on company time, and we give them the opportunities to give back to those organizations in ways that are meaningful to them. So they can make a donation and get it matched by the company, or they could go volunteer on their own time and log those hours, and we'll give them small grants as a reward that they can give back to a charity that is meaningful to them. And our associates gave back more than $2 million last year of their own money. That's aside from what we're giving as a company. So they're critical to what we're doing, and that's someone in our business's full-time job is to engage our associates in the communities and continue to find unique ways to do that.
Mark, what about you?
Each of our stores has what's called an Our Promise team. So that's a team within the store of associates that are there in that store, hyper-local many who live in that community, that they live out our purpose to feed the human spirit. And so they are the ones who are ensuring that the direct retail pickup that I talked about, the food rescue program that we have, is successful. They're the ones that are ensuring those members of our Kroger Community Rewards program, that's more than 6,000 organizations in our Columbus division, are getting support and felt supported by the store. So that's really how we feel is a great way to push this to the associates we have. Again, we have 114 stores over a big area. The typical communications channels that a lot of corporations have, you try, right? There are so many different ways you can reach people, but they see a lot of stuff from a lot of different places. So the best way at the end of the day are their coworkers, are their fellow associates who are explaining to them, when you ask someone to round up, this is who it benefits, right? This is who can do that, who are helping to tell me, hey, this organization is doing this. Can we support them? Can we help them with associate volunteers? My answer is always yes. Yes, yes, yes. Never know. Let's figure it out. And how can we do that? And so our promise teams are really embedded in our stores. Those are the ones those are the folks that are on the ground helping to make it happen and helping to make sure our associates are involved. Because as Vanessa said, they want to be, right? Our associates want to help the people where they live. They know the folks that are coming in the door that need a little bit of assistance, not just the holidays, at other times of the year. And so how can they help them so that they keep coming in the door with a smile on their face instead of a sad or frowned or furrowed brow about, all right, how am I going to pay for this cart today, right? Well, if that associate knows there's a way that they can help them do it, they want to be part of that. So that's how we found it is that localized level with support from our corporate office, our division office helping them really has been successful.
Thank you. Matthew, I'm sure you have a unique perspective on this question. Would you tell us more about how VESTA supports organizations in getting their staff involved in Columbus?
Yeah, definitely. So we become an extension of the team that we work with, right? Both Mark and Vanessa talked about their teams, and they have specific people that are either at the corporate office or at the Kroger stores that are facilitating these opportunities. In a lot of companies, maybe at your company, it's one person doing this, or they have another job. Like I remember at SafeLight, it was the vice president of real estate that also ran philanthropy. And he's a great guy. He's retired now, but philanthropy is its own job, right? It's not an add-on. And to do it effectively, we need to invest the resources. So VESTA helps companies do that. We help them go further, faster. We really understand the community needs, the nonprofits, the relationships that we've built through the one relationship with VESTA. The companies we work with have access to 185 different nonprofits. Companies like Mark mentioned, right? Like Kroger cares about hunger. We work with so many hunger organizations from the Food Collective all the way downstream to the two-person BIPOC community garden in the Hilltop neighborhood who needs tons of volunteers but just can't get connections. And we help companies find those relationships. One of my favorites was pre-pandemic, we worked with Express. And I brought the leadership team to the Southside Free Store, which is on the south side of Columbus, a free store. It's like a Goodwill, but everything's free, so people don't have to worry about how they're going to pay for clothes or books or whatever else they're receiving from the free store. A leader from Express said, "What do you guys need?" And they're like, "Well, winter is coming. We need hats, gloves, scarves." Well, we're a retail company, and we have thousands of those. And so all of a sudden, that donation, kind of like with Vanessa and Rox, that donation is facilitated. The other example is the free store services a lot of populations that are unhoused or homeless. And they don't need bottles of shampoo walking around with that, right? They need the travel size. Again, pre-pandemic, Express had a lot of employees, hundreds of employees every month, traveling around the country, going to stores, staying in hotels. What do hotels have? Trial size soaps and shampoos. So we set boxes up at the front door of Express's home office. And as employees came back, they would drop those into the boxes, and thousands of these were donated to the free store. And so those are the types of relationships, I want to say magic, that we try to facilitate between companies, nonprofits, and the employees at those companies to be the facilitator of that magic.
I'll just add the best stuff is not the planned ones, right? Just like rocks, just like that. It's the best community engagement tends to be the ones that just come out of nowhere, that happen. I don't know why, right? I can't answer the reason why, but that's what it seems like to me. I don't know if you feel the same way.
An attribute of just having a good relationship with those organizations that you support and understanding what their needs are and continuing to ask the question and have those ongoing conversations with them because the needs change all the time, right? And just to know, we work with organizations that they don't have a big HR department. So, they don't have the resources to do staff training and staff development. Well, we have a pretty sizable team, and that's their job to do training and development. So we have sent our team out to do trainings for nonprofit organizations because we otherwise don't have the resources. And it's just continuing the conversations and really getting to know them and bringing them into your family circle.
To that point, it's relationship. The thing that I always think about is trust. Every relationship that we begin, be it with a nonprofit or a business, starts with building a relationship around trust. What are we trying to accomplish? What is the other stakeholder trying to accomplish? And how do we align those goals? And every time I go into a partnership, be it with a nonprofit or a business, and it's transactional, and you've all been there where this stuff doesn't feel good, it never works out. The ones that are the most profound are the ones where there is an aligned vision, where we can dream and vision of what could be possible, even if it could take a long time. One of my favorite stories was Mimi Dane, who ran Flying Horse Farms, which is a camp for kids that have, serious health concerns. She met with someone from Abercrombie & Fitch, and it was at Pistachio Vera in German Village. And this person said, Mimi, after he was sold on Flying Horse Farms, what do you need? And she said, I need $1 million. This was many years ago. He laughed, right? Because Abercrombie at that time never gave that amount of money to a nonprofit. It was like 25, 50,000, maybe 100,000. And he said, let me see, we can't be there today, but let's see what happens. Since then, Abercrombie has donated millions of dollars. Their CEO is on the national board of the global camp nonprofit. T-shirts, right? All the kids get T-shirts. Those are facilitated by Abercrombie. And so, to Mark's point, it's not the transactional relationship. It's the ones that just kind of materialize from a relationship built on trust, and then the magic happens. And things that we think can't happen then do happen, and the community is stronger because of it. We, businesses, right, employees are stronger because of it.
Thank you. These are amazing and inspiring stories and taking mental notes for back to our organization. How are you communicating and sharing your social impact to the public and your consumers?
Yeah, I'll start with this. We either have the same data or we did one very similar because customers want it, right? They want to associate and associate and buy and patronize organizations that care, that do things in the communities where they live. And so we found we have to start telling people. We just have to directly, before it's, you see a sign in the store, or maybe you hope they'll look at the bottom of the receipt. I mean, we all know everything comes at us from every direction constantly 24 hours a day unless we stop it, right? So this year we took a pretty neat step, and across the country, Kroger we purchased airtime during the Super Bowl. People tend to think of food, right? During the Super Bowl. So not big commercial during the game. This was in local affiliates, and we aired localized commercials around the country talking about our efforts to fight hunger. And I think we can play the video. I was told it will work.
One in 5 children in America go to bed hungry. That's why Kroger has donated 134 million meals to families in Ohio. Join us in ending childhood hunger. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
So we localized that message in Dallas, in Louisville, and in markets all across the country to just, you kind of got to hit people over the head with it, right? You have to tell them specifically what we're doing. It's not their fault. There's so much information, so many things happening. So we want them to know this is the work we're doing. And oh, by the way, our customers, you're part of this, right? When you shop and you round up those dollars, that 35 cents every time you go is directly going to do that and to make that difference and keep a kid from going to bed hungry. And so we found it's not just the passive ways, right? You kind of have to go right at them. And this was really well received. It was just a great spot. I mean, that's a good, powerful spot that can uplift you. And we've also found that our holiday commercials, as well, that you might have seen, those messages resonate with people. You need to have messages that have some meaning and depth to it. And so we've kind of taken that step lately, and it's benefited for us.
I want your marketing budget.
That's not mine. It's pretty good. I'll say that.
You know, for Bread Financial, I would say we're really using online, website, social media is where we find our stakeholders are looking most at what you're doing for the community. So we're utilizing that, and I work so closely with our communications team to make that happen and tell the stories. But recently, we have created and are executing a cause marketing strategy. That's new for us. But that stat that I told you a little bit ago, we know that our customers are expecting it. So now, last year, we ran 4 different cause marketing campaigns on our variety of credit programs. And this year, we're on track for 13 cause marketing campaigns. They're very successful, and it's a beautiful way to really uplift our common goals with our clients. So, for example, Ulta Beauty, they're constantly doing in-store campaigns where you can round up, make a donation to a cause that Ulta Beauty has identified that's important to them. Well, they just so happen to be causes important to us too. So when you round up and use your Ulta Beauty credit card, we'll match that donation. And we're amplifying the message. We're getting in front of more customers with who that beneficiary is. Spoiler alert, upcoming campaign is for Big Brothers, Big Sisters. But we're delivering that message. We're really bringing Ulta Beauty, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and Bread Financial together to execute this campaign that's getting that mission out in front of a ton of customers. And so even if they don't donate, they saw Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and that's in their mind now. And they're associating those brands with that organization. So it's like a win all around when we're executing these cause marketing campaigns and aligning our shared values with our clients and the community organizations that we support.
I'll just share, I think the companies that do it best don't see philanthropy and giving back as, afterthought. It's ingrained in their DNA. I think that's what you're hearing from Vanessa and Mark. And also, I had another thought, of course I lost it. I would just say that it's ingrained in their DNA, and those are the companies that are able to figure out the relationships and go a lot deeper, because it's something that is just as important as their bottom line, right? Like they also seem like you've heard that up here, that their bottom line is stronger because their employee, their workforce is stronger. It all feeds each other.
I couldn't agree more. We say a lot of times at our logistics company, the store takes care of itself if we do all the right things. We too offer a paid time to volunteer. We have an employee-run committee on charity and giving back, really driven out of customers demanding it of us in the contract. And then this year we actually elevated it to a foundation and making it a 501(c)(3). So couldn't agree with you all more. How have your communications about this work evolved over the last 5 years? Mark, want to start?
Are you trying to say it's been hard to communicate messaging the last 5 years? Is that just a little bit?
Or 2 months.
Yeah, it's been interesting. And fortunately, feeding people is one of the maybe last issues that kind of everyone agrees we should do, right? Not everyone, but most, vast majority, that it tends to be a nonpartisan issue, to put it frankly. So we're fortunate in that when we say we focus on feeding people, that is something that impacts every community, every demographic, every county, every town. Someone's hungry everywhere, right? 1 in 5 kids in the country are hungry. In some parts of Ohio, it's more. Some parts of Ohio, it's a little less. But there are hungry people everywhere, in Upper Arlington, in the south side of Columbus, in New Albany, in McConnellsville, right? No matter where you go in the state, from Warren to Wapakoneta, somebody's hungry. And so that's made it a little bit easier, right? The things that you're working to do have helped. I will say we've had to be transparent about it. We've had to say what we're doing to do that, right? You'll notice a mixture of food and funds, because some people say, well, 134 million meals. Did you actually plate that out to everyone. No, it's, we have to explain how the money that we give and the food that we donate equals out to this, because people want to know that. They want to know the data behind it as well. So we've worked to do that. We've worked to be transparent in what we mean. So we've had to modify, we've had to change. At the end of the day, a good message breaks through. A good message always breaks through and gets to the end user, and we're fortunate that our messages were helping to end hunger. That can get through.
Vanessa, what about you?
I think there's a lot of noise out there right now. So what we're finding is to put the light out there, a really positive topic of supporting communities, giving customers, associates a way to get involved, and giving a steady drumbeat of communications. You can't just announce something one day and then 5 months later show back up. It has to be a steady cadence. You're not going to catch every communication, every piece of content is not going to show up on everyone's social media feed. So creating that steady beat of content, and we really take the approach of putting the spotlight on the nonprofit. It's not about Bread Financial. It's about that nonprofit and their mission and getting our audience connected to them, because we have a ton of resources, we have a decent amount of resources, more than most nonprofits, when it comes to marketing and communication. So let us help that organization with some content. They're right alongside of it, us developing the content, but we're doing the work that they otherwise may not have the time to do. So the transparency is key, steady drumbeat of communication, and really putting the spotlight on the nonprofit is what we're finding to be successful with our stakeholders right now.
I would say for BESA, it's evolved in terms of we've been able to go deeper in the value proposition and the importance of this work. The work that Kroger does, that Bread Financial does, that we do in terms of community engagement, that many of you do. As I mentioned earlier, right, the Surgeon General's report on loneliness, I would say over the past 5 years, my understanding, my team's understanding of what that truly means to how we show up as a community, and then how can we activate people to address that is front and center. Just to give you a quick example, every year we go to the Van Buren Homeless Shelter, which is right down the street in Franklinton. It's actually 3 shelters. It's a family shelter, a men's shelter, and a women's shelter all in one location. And we do a Valentine's dinner. We've been doing this for many years. We have this big meal. We have kids' activities. We have Jenny's ice cream. We have flowers for every single person who's staying there, as well as the staff. And then last year when I was there, on the men's side, they're like, "Can we get flowers?" And I was like, "I didn't realize men wanted flowers too, but yes, you get flowers." And this year, my program coordinator, who's running the program, had a gentleman come up to her, and say, "Are you going to be doing this on the men's side?" And she said, "Yes." And he said, "I feel seen." And that is what this work is all about, is helping people meet people where they are, with respect, with dignity, for them to be seen, for us to be seen, to build community. And so I would say over the past 5 years, our understanding of the importance of this work, the president of the Columbus Foundation said to me recently, "How do we make this a community priority, volunteerism, as big as ending hunger?" And I appreciate that comment, because there is importance in getting more people out into the community. There is importance in bringing people together and meeting people where they're at. I made that little quip about, not just 5 years, but 2 months. I would say also our messaging, and I would, if I was a gambling person, gamble that they would say the same thing. The messaging hasn't really changed over 5 years or 2 months. We are still the organization we were 5 years ago and 2 years ago. In fact, just a quick side note, like a couple of days ago, for some reason I was scrolling through our LinkedIn trying to find something, and it came all the way back a few years to, after George Floyd, our statement. And so many companies put out statements, and we were one of them. And it was refreshing is not the right word, but humbling to read that statement again because it's been a few years and realize like, oh, those things are still true and the way we are showing up is still true. That hasn't changed. So I would say, companies that can live by their values, it's easy to do it when times are good, when the waters are calm. It's much harder to do it when the waters are rough, but that's when it matters most.
I'll add one more thing. The importance of truth in this, and what I mean by that is just saying what is a fact. And so a fact, the vast majority of people that visit food pantries go 1 or 2 times a year. They're not there weekly. They're not even there monthly. They're not even there quarterly. The vast majority of food pantry visits are 1 or 2 times a year because when times get tough, the first thing that goes is food. If you have to choose between fixing your car or buying groceries that week and you're someone who is a single parent or maybe you're a 2-parent household or whatever it might be and you're on a limited income, what choice are you going to make? Well, you're going to fix the car so you can continue to have your job and try to build out of this hole, get out of this hole, right? Well, food's the first choice. And so your food pantry is there to help that. That is just a fact. That is not, there is nothing behind that. There is nothing partisan. That is data that food pantries collect. When you share that with anyone of any political spectrum and they don't know it, it clicks. You can see it behind the eyes. You can see the brain work. You can see the light come on. It just makes sense to people because that's everyone, right? That is everyone at some point. If times get tough, what's the choice that you make? And so truth matters. It really does. And good data behind it. It's all those things that we know. The good data behind it and telling the truth. But when you give it out and it connects with someone, you can see the impact that it has.
Thank you. What benefits has your company realized from engaging employees and customers in your philanthropy? Matthew, I'll start with you.
I'll take this not for my employees, but the companies that we work with. I think they would say that they are able to show up more effectively in their business with their employees in the community. Happier, healthier employees, right? Something we hear from a lot of companies is when they are hiring people, particularly younger generations, one of the questions in the interview is, how are you having an impact in the community? Seeing a lot of head nods. And so companies that are able to answer that question, be it by ending hunger or other ways, are then able to attract the talent, not just to their company, but to this community. And so to give you one quick example, I'm going to go back to Ohio State Wexner Medical Center for a second. We had an employee from Wexner that moved to America from 6,500 miles away, didn't really speak English, came here for a job at Wexner, had no community in Columbus. And how did he build that community? By volunteering. Last year, he served hundreds of hours at 19 different nonprofits. On Saturdays, he would volunteer at one nonprofit in the morning and one nonprofit in the afternoon. He met people, he worked on his English, he met coworkers, built relationships with coworkers through volunteering. This community is stronger because of this volunteer. The mayor always talks about how Columbus is a welcoming community and how can we make this community a place where people want to come and stay. Here's a great example of that happening last year. And so that's one example of one of the 17,000 employees at Wexner that had a deep impact, not just on this community, but I would say his colleagues. What are those experiences? What are those stories he's bringing back to the workplace that he's sharing with his colleagues, getting them engaged? And how is that impacting how he's showing up in the work each and every day?
It's loyalty. I mean, really, it's one word. It's loyalty with our customers. I mentioned our Kroger Community Rewards program earlier and realized I didn't explain what it was for those who don't know. So with your Kroger Plus card, you can designate an organization. And every time you shop, a portion of your sales, based on everything, we donate towards that organization. We have 6,000 organizations, churches, schools, PTOs, nonprofits, humane societies, you name it, that participate in this program. And there's one example that I love and I share it. The number 2 in our entire division is the Toledo Whitmer High School cheerleaders. The cheerleaders, they earn $18,000 a year from Kroger through the Kroger Community Rewards program because of the loyalty of years of cheerleaders signing up. I called the advisor. I said, I just have to learn. I want to know. She goes, you're not taking my money away, are you? And I said, no, ma'am. No, ma'am. You are remarkable. I want to learn more so we can tell people. She makes every new cheerleader bring 5 new community rewards people signed up. She says they're not allowed to make someone change. They have to be brand new before they can cheer for me. That builds loyalty, right? And then it goes otherwhere. And so I also asked them, like, well, what do you do? You must have some of the best uniforms in the world. She brings speakers to talk to her girls. She talked. They have a relationship with Rocks. They support Rocks in their school because of that, right? So she is empowering young women in this high school in Northwest Ohio through this program and through this loyalty. So at the end of the day, it's loyalty. It keeps your associates, keeps your customers. I would, again, no, you always can't say everyone, but when you help someone, you feel better. I think that's maybe universal. I don't know, but I would sure hope it is. When you help someone, you feel better. And when you do that, you build loyalty, whether it's to your company or it's through your customers.
Nothing new, because I just want to echo what they both said. You know, it shows up in how we're interacting with our associates. It shows up when we interact with our customers and our clients. It's just ingrained into the business. And when we put that out there, the return that we see from all of those stakeholder groups is a positive one. You know, I think everybody is happy and engaged and wants to be part of their communities, but maybe doesn't know how. And so if we can make that connection with them of here's an outlet, here's a way to get involved, and then they're out volunteering, and they go and now they're a regular volunteer at Ronald McDonald House or whatever the charity is. We've done our job. You know, a lot of our associates also utilize volunteerism, and Matthew could probably give a dissertation on this as team building. And so you've got stronger teams as a result of engaging in communities. The business impacts just go so deep that we wouldn't do it anyway.
Thank you. And Vanessa, let's just stay on that for a moment. So in addition to, obviously it's the right thing to do for our communities, but why is corporate giving such a good business strategy?
Yeah, well, you know, I think that corporate giving can really set the tone for nonprofit support. When a corporation is investing in the community, a specific nonprofit, and they're promoting that giving, that engagement, it's a little bit like a seal of approval where others may be a little timid to get involved. We put ourselves out there, and then, you know, that nonprofit can garner more support when we're openly talking about it. And corporations have to be at the table. No one corporation is going to come in and solve all of our community needs. But when we all come together, we're at the table, we're doing our part, and we're driving that community change to make sure our community can thrive. That's business. You know, it's good for everybody. It's a win-win all around. So it's just the right thing to do. But if your corporation is hesitant to get involved, you're hesitant to talk about what you're doing, put it out there. Tell your story. If you feel like you're not giving enough, anything matters because it is helping that nonprofit use your contribution to amplify the message and get more support. So don't ever be shy about talking about what you're doing.
Yeah, I would just add that everything helps, right? So I really agree with the don't be afraid to say it. Don't be afraid to get involved. The best nonprofits can take anything and use it to help their customers, right? To help the folks that they serve. So you might think, oh, who needs X that I have? Someone needs it. Someone absolutely needs it and can use it. And if the nonprofit can't, they'll share with it. That is something that has made me so happy about the food bank ecosphere. The way food banks share is remarkable. The way that they call each other with, we have too much bread. Our customers, it turns out, don't eat as much white bread. And that's what we get a lot donated. This food bank needs a lot of white bread. So we'll share it. They share it. And the amount of waste is nothing. Like there's just not food wasted because the food banks share it so well. But go back to the question why it's good for business strategy. For us, at the end of the day, if someone is not getting food assistance, they're likely shopping for their own food, right? It's that simple. So if we can help people out of their crisis to the point where they're able to go shop at Kroger and get whatever they want, it's good for us at the end of the day, and it's really great for our community.
Just to share from the business side and the employee side real quick, I love what Vanessa said that, let me say this, there were a group of professors from Harvard who studied, their question was, is the American dream dead? This was many years ago, 10, 15 years ago. And they studied that, and what they realized is it's not, but it needs help. And that help comes in the fashion of cross-sector collaboration. That the magic that happens in terms of addressing community needs can't be solved by government alone, education institutions, for-profit corporations or nonprofits. It's when all of those come together, all those sectors come together, that these wild ideas, visioning, dreaming can manifest and come to life. And so, to Vanessa's point, it's essential for companies to be at the table to address community needs. We can't do it without companies, we being nonprofits. And then from the employee side, let me give a quick example. There was a retailer in town who donated pallets of clothes that they couldn't use because it had holes in it and there were samples and all kinds of stuff. So they didn't want to throw it out. So they donated it to a homeless shelter. So the homeless shelter is like, this is great, we need clothes. Pallets of clothes show up. Okay, now the homeless shelter needs volunteers to sort the clothes between men, women, children, and then the clothes that have holes in it, well, they can't use that, so they have to throw it out. So the company that donated the clothes, we got volunteers from that company to show up and sort the clothes. It took those volunteers 40 hours to go through the pallets of clothes, sort them, all that kind of stuff. And it was eye-opening. You should have heard the comments. They thought they were doing something really good, and they were donating the clothes. But then it got them to think about the end user, the shelter, and what are the costs that they are putting on the shelter. And then they bring that understanding back to their workforce. So it allows the workforce of that company to level up their thinking, their strategy, all the things that are important to a company in terms of how they want their employees to show up. And so there's a lot that, to Mark's point, when you give back, there's so much you're giving to somebody or an organization. There's also so much that you gain. And not just you, there's a ripple effect that ripples out to your colleagues, to your company, to the community.
And I'll just add to that, and I'm sure there's studies that will state this, but I'll just speak to FST and One Compass Holdings experience. When I started 6.5 years ago, we're an ESOP, so we're 100% employee owned, so we get issued the share price, right? So the scorecard takes care of itself. The scorecard share price was $15.80 when I started, and we didn't have a formalized process for community engagement. And over the course of those 6 years, our CEO built essentially what we call the pillars of excellence, but it's how do you make decisions? And you make your decisions considering your employees, your customers, your vendors, and your community. So as we've ingrained in that decision-making process, cut to the chase, our share price last year was $85.80. So thinking of that scorecard, and it's 100% going to be higher this coming year because we continue to give back to the community, that our customers care about it, our employees care about it, and it's really not hard to connect the dots to retention, right? People are more engaged at work. It's easier for our recruiters to recruit people because they want to come and get community involved. So it's an absolutely fantastic business strategy for any organization, at least from our perspective. Tell us about the social impact of your giving and how you communicate that to potential applicants and the incumbent workers. Art, you want to start?
Sure. Matthew, you said it right when you said, especially younger generation that's entering the workforce, they care. They want to know. Kroger's unique. We actually have a dinner on Monday where we are recognizing more than 2,000 associates in the Columbus division alone that have more than 20 years experience with our company. We have one associate who works in West Virginia who has 67 years with Kroger, more than 2/3 of the company's history. She's been there. She's remarkable. Mary Tennant's her name. But we have 2,000 associates with more than 20 years experience, right? We have a lot more that are younger. We're the first job for a lot of people. And so we deal with both, and generations are really interesting how I think it wasn't talked about. And those associates that we have that are 20 years, they just sort of knew this is what you did. I'll do something because that's what I do. I serve, but we don't talk about it. We don't ask about it. It just happens. Now it's a question. Okay, what do we do? How are we going to make a difference? All right, we're able to answer that. So it is a thing. It is something we have to communicate. We have to talk about. That's we work as I talked about earlier. Our communication strategies, our promise teams working to do that. As far as a social impact, it makes a difference. We haven't eliminated hunger. There are more people ever, but 3 million pounds of food almost that matters. That's a lot of people that are getting served and are getting help. So I think we're making a difference. We haven't ended it, but we're getting there, and we just have to keep talking about it and telling people, and that'll get more people behind it to help us do that.
Yeah, I mean, to echo, when we are out there and we're hiring, it's one of the main questions we hear. And so our people and culture team is well versed. How we give back is part of our associate value proposition. So that team that's forward facing, they know exactly what to say. They could come and tell you everything that I told you today. But what I love more than that is that you could probably go to any Bread Financial associate and each of them would be able to articulate that this is a company that cares about giving back. And they would be able to tell you their own version of that. So it could be they connected me with an organization and I'm a regular volunteer there now. Or I was doing a fundraising campaign participating in a 5K and I was able to get my coworkers in my company to join in and support that. Or, my family was going through a hard time and we had to turn to an organization that my company supports. And it's so moving if they're at Nationwide Children's Hospital for some awful reason to look at the wall and see, oh, my company's name is on the wall and they're investing to make sure that I'm having a good experience. So it's critical to how we're putting ourselves out there, how we're recruiting, and the type of individuals we're recruiting, because we want individuals who are going to come and embrace that culture. And as far as the social impact, we do our best to really communicate that impact to all of our stakeholders. And so whatever they grasp onto and are willing to repeat, and I love that you said the ripple effect, it gets out there. So, my hope is that if you ever run into a Bread Financial associate and you ask them what they like most about their company, they're going to tell you that the culture is amazing and we really care about our communities.
So as a founder, I live and breathe this stuff. Bringing people together is my life's work. I get to do it through Vesa. I told Vanessa this a couple weeks ago. I wake up at 4:30 in the morning Saturdays to do this work. I have a young daughter. It's my creative time, and I just love it. I'm fired up about this work, and my team knows that. The way that we communicate the social impact really comes down to our values. Everything we do, we live by our values. We use EOS traction, which some of you might use. I'm seeing head nods. And everything about that operating system is about starting with your values, hiring people by your values, assessing people, letting people go, all around your values. And that drives every single thing we do. And it doesn't mean I don't get it wrong. Like, one of our values is to be fearless. There are times that I am scared out of my freaking mind, right? But it's a reminder that, when I'm in that moment, to step back and realize, like, I'm human, that's okay, and go back to the value. I worked with someone who said we all want to be the Buddha, but sometimes we're the asshole. And it's this kind of thing. And so I constantly think about that, not to be so hard on myself or my team, that we are all there. I fully believe that my team and pretty much all of your teams, right, are there because they want to do a good job. They want to feel valued. They want to show up and be successful at whatever they're doing. How can we pour into them, help them, invest in them so they can show up as their best self?
Great, thank you. We're going to open it up for questions and answers.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. First of all, thank you so much for such a wonderful intimate setting. Really, made this conversation very intimate and also makes many things like run through my mind. So thank you for all of that. I'm Jamie Shackrath. I'm part of the EV discussion. My question to you is, I'm hearing that with some of the government changes that social financials that come from the government are being pulled. So will that mean that corporations need to step up more, or how will those communities continue in the government?
Yeah, great question. And you know, we don't know. I wish I had a crystal ball. But right now, those are conversations we're having internally. And we're there to support those organizations. And we're having conversations with them, not just about how they're going to need more funding, but what else can we be doing that maybe takes a little burden off of them. So the example I gave of training and development, is that something that they might otherwise be paying for? We have a huge initiative around operational excellence and efficiency. Can we help these nonprofits evaluate how they're operating efficiently? Because a little secret, our budget to support nonprofits is not like growing by tens of millions of dollars every year, and that's potentially what it's going to take to fill this gap. So we've got to have these critical conversations about what is that nonprofit's plan A, B, and C, because that's where they are right now. And how do we play into that, and how can we support that? Obviously, funding is fundamental, and we're going to do the best we can. So maybe we're funding a program, but it's better for that nonprofit that we fund general operating support. We're making those kinds of changes. But we've got to go deep with them and be right alongside them in figuring out how we navigate quite a bit of uncertainty ahead.
I'll just add, the battle's not over with the state budget. If you know a legislator, please ask them to fund the amount for the food banks flat funded as it was last time. So anyone who has a friend, please just make that request because the battle's not over, and that's where it has to be. I have a lot of conversations with everyone I can using that stat, right? That stat of the vast majority of food bank visits are 1 or 2 times a year. When you hear that, that can help you to understand, okay, this money is going somewhere positive. So not accepting a loss when the game is still going on is really important in the funding space. And that's something that we're working really hard to do.
We just add, no company, no foundation can replace the billions that would be flowing from the federal government. And so it's going to be painful. It is painful already. To give you an example, we lost a big grant that didn't directly come from the federal government, but flowed from the government to local government. Pre-pandemic, we did 500 service projects a year in this community. Last year, we did over 2,000. This grant funded 300 of those. That's 300 less projects. That's thousands of less volunteers we're going to engage this year because of that. There's nothing we can do about that. What I believe is, what I say to my team every single day, no matter where you are on the political spectrum, it's about showing up. Our answer to what's happening is showing up and doing this work each and every day. I think about it like a storm. It is a storm, right? Like half of my revenue is in jeopardy right now. One of our major funders is through the Office of Health Equity at an organization. Is that funding going to come? I don't know. I can't control that. What I can control is the ship. Is that ship reinforced? Is that ship as prepared as possible for the storm that we're going to go through? And so that's how we focus each and every day. What can we do in this moment so that we don't become consumed by desperation, despair of things that are out of our control? Because we are going to lose money. We as BESA, we as a nonprofit sector, it's already happening. And so how do we work with our stakeholders, our partners? I just was on the phone with a council member yesterday about funding, and something that made me really happy. She called me at 7:30 in the morning. Her schedule's probably insane. And she said, my schedule's insane. I have a nail in my tire. I'm just going from meeting to meeting to meeting. And the one thing that keeps me grounded is when I volunteer. To me, it's a great equalizer. It brings people together from across the spectrum, from across demographics. and helps us serve each other.
All right, well, thank you so much to our panelists. Please give them a round of applause. And to close out today's program, I'd like to bring up Nick Sheriff, Director of Development with the Columbus Chamber of Commerce Foundation.
Thanks, Jill, and thanks again to all of our panelists. I love this conversation this morning, but especially thank you to everyone out there in the audience that joined us today. It's been such a pleasure hosting you. We hope you'll consider coming to more Chamber of Commerce events. We run events in our Experience series all about HR and workforce quarterly, as well as dozens of other events every month across every topic we can think of. You can learn more about those at columbus.org/events. Check it out today. And then a final reminder for everybody, if you did park in the Marconi garage building, please bring your parking ticket to GBQ's front desk so you can get that validated on the way out. We'll all be up here for a few more minutes if anyone has questions you didn't want to bring up publicly. Otherwise, we wish you the best day you can have